HIV the most?
Africa.
Yes, I'm not that big. Turn my hat.
Isn't Africa a
This
continent?
one.
Yeah.
Did he say what country?
He said what region?
Oh.
Alright, so not they don't have enough problems with Ebola and malaria and sickle cell anemia, but let's just hit them with some HIV. So darker colors, like right here.
Oh, that's terrible.
So that dark color, if I look at the map from the UN, is roughly over a quarter of your adults. These are just adults. They don't count kids or people from about 60, but you're talking about our age of HIV. This is not AIDS, this is simply HIV. So you figure some percentage of that would be AIDS and some percentage of HIV. So basically every 4 people, 1, 2, 3, 4.
Is that just because the population is so dense?
That's the big question.
There's so many other dense populations in the world that don't.
So here's the logic. Some people argue, well, this is simply because it started there. If HIV began in Africa, you had a longer time to infect more people before it was named. You have more time to infect more people before they realized it, so you end up with more people getting it, which is true. Right? You're going to have more people getting it because you have more time. The other people say, well, no, it's because of no health care, so if you get sick, you don't know it, you can't treat anybody. There is also the sex trade, prostitution, that plays a role, poverty plays a role, the internet, oh, if I just do this, I'll be cured, that kind of stuff. Who knows, right? And plus, once you get enough people getting HIV, they're going to pass it on just by having contact with you. If you're a nurse in Nigeria, every person that bleeds on you, every 4th of them is giving you HIV, right? Just by having body fluids.
Thanks.
And plus you have malaria, which requires blood transfusion. So you throw that into a pot, really bad.
Don't you have to have an open wound if you get someone else's blood on you in order to get it?
It has to enter your bloodstream. So again, here rubber gloves and eyeglasses seem pretty common. If you're in Nigeria, whatever. So you look at the U.S., we're just sort of, nowhere. Russia's dark. I think that's mostly because of the economy and poverty, sex trade, drugs kind of thing. Africa, they think it's partly sex trade, partly the poverty.
Is there no data in?
That's a dim.
Right, so so don't plan your honeymoon based on this map, right? Just because a country doesn't have a color doesn't mean they don't have it, they just mean they don't report it. And these are reported by the country. So the country could say, well, that's bad for tourism, we'll say we don't have any. Right? So you're relying on self-reported data. Like, I'm surprised that one's not true, right? So Japan, China, whatever. So these are reported public data, so you don't always believe the color
I
you
want to
see.
throw out there on the map that the light purple is low, and it's the no reported with actual gray.
Right.
So Congo is not reported, but Egypt is low.
Right. Which I tend not to quite believe. That's me. Right. So again, the colors tell you something, they don't tell you how truthful that color is.
Is that Belize, the dark one?
Well,
that's like, why in the
I
world
don't
is
know.
there so much in the United States but not Mexico and Canada?
Because that's what they say.
Because there's wine.
So one of the things is these are countries reporting the data to the UN based upon what their doctors report to them.
No, they have
You
low.
can't really
Because
believe
they
the
have
map.
national health care.
Except for the trend, right? So the trend is Africa has it worse than everybody else, right? Why? Lots of reasons.
That's a very complicated thing. But
Let's
it's
do
good for
our-
things like this because
Our risk
AIDS
factors.
medicine is really expensive.
So the trick is to get HIV, not the trick, but there's a pattern to it. And the pattern is number 1, to get exposure, it requires HIV to enter the bloodstream. So it has to get into my blood to actually get an infection to occur. So it can't be on me, it has to be in me. The problem is HIV is found in all body fluids, which you can't see. But there's a difference. The difference is the density of the fluid. So if you think of body fluids, not that you do, think of sweat versus mucus. Visualize that? Which one's more dense?
Mucus.
Mucus. The more dense the fluid, the more HIV particles in the fluid. So as you increase the density, you're going to increase the HIV particles that can reside in that fluid. So any body fluid will have HIV, but the amount of HIV will vary by the density. So on our scale, if we go low density, high density, saliva is considered pretty darn low. It's pretty watery, takes a lot of it to get you. Name a high density fluid for me.
Blood.
Blood, semen.
Semen. Blood, semen.
Those would be considered a high density fluid. It doesn't take very much of that to have a lot of HIV in it. So you're going to couple the fluid you're in contact with and how quickly it can get to your bloodstream to mean the risk. So, transfusion of a contaminated blood product.
Hi.
Must be high, because it's blood product that's high density, and they stick it in my vein. You got it, right? Needle sticks.
Low.
Low.
Medium.
Yeah. Yes.
With that one, I think it depends, are you gloved, are you double gloved, are you single gloved?
Yep, all that. So the CDC says it's 4% risk for needle stick, which is actually low.
Oh, like you're low.
Because the problem is all this. What fluid is on the needle? Is it blood? Is it, good God, saliva? Did it actually go deep enough to find your blood? How long did it take to go from patient to blood? Did you push the plunger or did you pull the plunger? Right? Was there alcohol on your glove? You know, all that kind of stuff fogs this up. So it is a risk. It's not a huge risk like getting a direct blood-to-blood contact. Right?
So it's low?
It's considered low to medium, depending on what you think 4% is.
But technically, if somebody who was HIV positive stuck themselves with a needle and had blood on it, and then you stuck yourself with that needle, it's higher,
It'd
right?
be higher in that situation. But just any random needle stick is not necessarily high.
Okay.
Like if you're working in a doctor's office or something.
Right, you drop a needle on the floor, you pick it up a minute later, and it pokes you.
But some of us will be using 16 gauge, 12 gauge, 16 gauge.
That's the
Huge.
thing. The bigger the needle, the more stuff in it, risk point. So the variation there matters. Let's do mosquitoes. Low. They do carry HIV, believe it or not, but they don't seem to transmit it to you. That's a lot of what everyone in Africa said. Right? Miss breastfeeding.
Medium?
We don't know. Because breast milk would contain, milk's in here, HIV. It'd have to get into the bloodstream of the baby. We're not sure if that happens or if it does, if that's why. Yes.
So hind milk would be more.
Yes.
Yeah, that's similar to that, with the density,
Uh-huh.
since colostrum is more dense.
Yeah.
Would it be higher exposure?
If there's equal HIV, yes.
But what if the baby is causing, what if there's like a, you know how sometimes if women can get, for breastfeeding, they can get like sores or something like that?
It raises the risk.
Oh, okay.
Right? So baby's teething, there's bloodstream. If you just cut the baby's tongue, whatever, blah, blah, blah. So there's a lot of variation, but the problem is you can't prove baby's got it because they could have got it some other way. Maybe your child found a syringe in your tweaker world and did it. You don't know.
Tweaker world, oh my gosh.
So, yeah. Same with this one. During birth, there's a lot of blood and ugly stuff in birth. So there is a risk of transmission because you can tear or rip things up. So in the U.S., how do you give birth if you're HIV positive?
C-section.
C-section. The concept is the doctor's taking the risk, not the baby. The baby comes out without getting torn through all that. But we don't know, because there are babies born positive who then become negative later. So we're not sure were they infected
Oh, really?
or not.
Isn't there a cure now for babies?
Yeah, they can give the acyclovir stuff upon birth. But one of the tricks is they don't actually know, because the way the immune system is, you have mom's antibodies from birth. So if you're HIV positive, you don't know if that's mom's antibodies, the IgGs, showing mom's infection, or if that's actually your immune system showing infection. So the problem is you have months of not knowing if it's you or mom who's actually infected. That's a seroconversion.
Is it, but you can test later,
Yeah.
months later?
So most children at 6 months are HIV negative because those mom's antibodies you check at birth, not the baby. So moms
So-
wear off, then you're okay.
And their cure only works during the first 3 months or something?
Well, the longer you wait, right, the more
That's
HIV you have to
exactly
fight.
Okay.
So you're risking ethical, do I give it to someone who isn't sick, versus do I wait to know you're sick and by then you've had 6 months of virus destroying you?
It seems like you give it to them, what are the risks?
I don't know. Well, nausea, you lose bone function, and your stomach actually can end up with acid ulcers, you can end up with all something. Right? As healthcare workers, you can end up taking these drugs before you actually know you're exposed. right? So that's the concept. Do I take the pill not knowing if I got a stick and then end up throwing up for 5 weeks? Or do I wait till I'm positive and then waste 6 months of bleeding? That's the question you have. Welcome to healthcare. I'm not
Are there
healthcare.
any restrictions on moms that are HIV
In the US, yes.
positive that give birth?
Yes.
Restrictions.
Like
Well, like, are they allowed to, I mean,
You-
Is
in
it
Lane
child
County, you're
abuse
not
if
allowed to
you're
breastfeed if you're HIV positive.
breastfeeding?
Wow.
What's the I mean, if you carry the baby.
The argument that went to court at that one was you had a mom who was HIV positive, said, "Oh, breast is best, I'm only gonna breastfeed." The judge said, well, since your breast milk contains HIV and the baby appears to be negative, you're putting the baby at risk.
How
So it's
can
foster
the
care or
baby
bottle.
not have it till the mom
You can
does?
be born negative to a positive mom.
So who sent her to court? The husband?
DHS,
DHS? Really?
yeah,
It's child endangerment.
it is.
Well, so it's
Let's do kissing. You kiss. Low risk, right? Unless you have dripping open sores, don't kiss people. French kissing, hugging, those are all things that shouldn't be risky because there shouldn't be fluid hitting my blood if I'm a nice, hygienic person. Same with dried blood, right? Now, sex, yes it is,
Woohoo.
but now not all sex is even. So if you have receptive anal sex, that's going to be
Very
high risk. Lots of blood contact between pairing. Vaginal sex is the same, right? Especially when we're on our period, there's a concept, right? Vaginal sex with the female, medium, because it's harder to get blood contact in the male than it is for the male to give it to the female, right? That's where the plumbing is. And then the oral sex stuff would be
low.
Medium.
considered, depending on who it's with, medium to low,
Well, depending on,
and what you do.
yeah.
Because it's harder to find fluid blood contact if you do these than it is to do those. Not that I'm suggesting you go out and have a bunch of oral sex, but not every sex is even. And then the last one, you have other STDs, the risk is
Higher.
high. Why might that be?
Lower immune systems?
Your immune system, bloody open sores in your genitalia, you're doing stupid junk anyway. But the concept is anything that lets the virus find my helper T cells is going to create possible risk. Make sense? So HIV. Having learned HIV, find this page, our last case study of the year. Let's turn. So we'll review a lot of the stuff we just did for vaccine. So we're going to skip number 1, that's a biology 112 question, but we're going to write to number 2. What is an antigen? That's on your final, damn it. What's an antigen?
Protein.
A shape, where?
On a cell.
On a cell, yes! Why does your body need to care about antigens? How does it recognize antigens? What's it looking for? A match. It's to tell me self or non-self, right? So the immune system is checking if there's a self or non-self shape on your cells to see if you should kill it or not. So you're checking the antigen on that. Right? Make sense? So, there are antigens on the flu. So let's see, last time you read the news, you probably had someone talk about H1N1. Does that ring a bell? Anyone now figure out what the H1N1 are standing for? The antigens. The antigens are defined by the letters and numbers on the flu virus. So H1N1 is different than H2N3. They're meaning the shapes of the flu. So every letter combination is a shape on the flu virus. To show you I'm not making that up much, let me show you a flu virus. We've got one right here. Right here. So, okay, so that little ball of spiky evil, this is a flu. Those are the antigens or the shapes or receptors or markers or whatever I call them. And then if you look down this magical list here of the most common, there's different families of flus. And you read these little numbers, H1N1, H7N7, H3, and 8, that's describing these shapes. So each type of flu has a shape that's unique to it. And that's what your body's trying to recognize and remember every time. They're specific and adaptive. No, you never have to know which ones are where, right? Those are the flu shapes. Make sense? All right, so here's the problem, is the next question. Number 4, what happens during antigenic shift? What does that mean in English by shift your antigens?
Change shape.
They change shape. In an antigenic shift, your shapes have changed. Is that good or bad that the flu changes shape? That's kind of bad. Because this whole idea of memory. If you change your looks, I don't remember who you are. I have to relearn it every time. That's the adaptive memory. So if the flu didn't change, you would only learn it once. Like your measles shot. It never changes. You get 1 shot for life. This changes every 2 seconds. So every time, it's a new flu to your immune system.
How does it change?
Well, let's do that. The quick answer is it can't check for mistakes. The long answer is this one. Right. So let's do this one. Your friend realizes you need to go get a flu shot. As good healthcare professionals are supposed to have them. And oh my goodness! Right. He's got the flu from the shot. No. Let's look at number 2. Why do people claim they get the flu from the shot?
Sorry, I have one question really quick. How do they know what to put in each influenza
They don't.
shot each year? Oh,
That's why you have to get new shots all the time. Good guess.
it's just a guess?
Wild
We
guess.
talked about it last
Convenient
class.
Yeah.
last
Oh,
view.
I don't remember where I was.
Yeah. Wild guess.
Blamed it on China.
Yeah. Blame it on China. But really, they don't know. That's the problem. Because it can change its shape, you're just like Vegas. You're trying to guess what the next roll will be. And so you're trying to make, they do statistical and biological stuff. But basically, I don't know what's going to be, but here's my 3 best guesses. Have fun with that one. So if you go get your shot, and then you run down with the flu, why might that be true? Why do people claim they got the flu from the shot? What might be the reason? They didn't get the flu from the shot, by the way.
They already have the flu.
They already had the flu, right? How long does it take to build immunity after exposure? About 2 weeks, right? You go in a day before and get the shot, you've had 2 weeks of flu before your immune system has even begun to see it. So a lot of
Seems like a
times you
pretty
wait
big
till you're
coincidence.
sick and then go in. Right? You've already got it. That's the most common excuse is people wait till they already caught the flu and then get the shot. I'm getting a headache. I think I'll get a shot. Good luck. That was long ago, man.
Because then the shots they're actually the antigen.
Antigen.
Which is the virus, right?
No, it's not the virus. It's the antigens off the virus. It's the shape of the virus.
So now you've been double then.
How does that?
So you're not getting the
They
flu.
So what is that?
cut
Right,
the
you won't get
shape
the flu
off
from
of
the shot.
cell?
You'll
How does that work?
get a response from the shot, but not the flu. The
So,
problem is you already had the flu, so the shot is 2 weeks too late.
How do you get only the shape injected and not the flu?
They just take the inside parts out.
Right, so what they do is, here I can show you.
Okay.
but what does that do, like when it gets inside of you, it like
I can
attaches?
show you that picture. Hold on.
You get the shape so your body can fight it. You can make the
I love these
antibodies
questions you
fight
ask.
it, but you don't get the rest of the cells. You just get the shape on the outside.
Pathogen vaccine. What is that? What's this?
Or you could do like
I can't get the rest of that out.
Oh, maybe that's how they just inject you with antigen in there. And that's why if that is the law of the they didn't give it
Here we go. This is an ad, but it works. So here's how they make a vaccine, right? So they find a virus that they think will do it. So you go to Hong Kong, you have people sneeze on a towel, you take it home, basically. And then what they do is they incubate that shape in an egg. So the chick embryo is infected with the virus. The chick embryo does an immune response. The chick embryo then makes basically immune cells. You then take that and break it down. But what they'll usually do in this step in here is they'll remove the viral particle and just leave the antigens in the virus to incubate the egg. I don't need the whole virus, I just need the outside shell. So they decapacitate, what they call it. They break it open and just use the shell to induce the chick. So a live virus vaccine is the virus, but what they call these kind of hapchen virus is just the shape. So all I need is the shape. I don't need the whole thing.
So the chicks actually aren't sick.
Oh, they're not. They never grow up. I assume
You
they're
did.
sick. They
Well,
would be,
how are they not infected if you just give them the shape of it and not?
well, they're not hatched yet, right? They're
I
just an egg. So they would be sick. That's why they ask you about an egg allergy for a vaccine, because they raise it on eggs. That's how it works, so. So basically, you infect the chick in the shell to make the vaccine for the person, to grow the viral particles.
The chick has the whole thing.
Yes,
And then they separate it after.
yes, yes, then you take the parts off.
Why do they do that?
Well, this would start in, they would do this in January in China, or September here, month 3. Anyway, make sense? So now you have to know that. Let's go back to where I was. Where was I? So what else can be infected by a flu besides humans?
Or pig.
Pigs, chickens, ducks, everything pretty much, right? That's the problem, is everything can catch a flu, but the flus they catch, there's that stinking picture I keep putting up, wrong one again, can be different. So you have different flus for different creatures, humans, pigs, horses, dogs, cats, seals, guinea pigs, blah, blah. That wouldn't be a problem at all, except for the next thing.
And they can cross.
Yes. They can cross species lines. So what happens one day is you catch a flu that is from a chicken or a pig instead of from a person. And what's going to happen to you when you catch a pig flu instead of a person flu? You're going to die. Okay, so let's do that. What usually will happen is you'll get a whole lot of excessive symptoms. So name a flu symptom for me, everyone gets.
Body.
You ache,
Chills.
chills, runny nose, baby,
Fever.
you feel like crap, right? Blah, blah, blah. Throw up. That's every flu will do that. In these flus, what happened in the swine flu or SARS? What do people do? They die, right? You pass out, you vomit to the point of death, you can't breathe, you have 106-degree fever, which melts your brain. So everything kind of goes wacko because you're now infected with a bird or pig flu that isn't even remotely similar to human flu. And so it just acts much worse. Right? So it's much, much worse. And the problem is they can spread quickly. Not only do they kill you quickly, but they tend to spread fast. Worthless trivia. In 1918, how many people died of the 1918 flu? Spanish flu, 22 million people in 5 months.
That's crazy.
Okay? That's more than died in 4 years of the First World War.
Did they live
Without
really?
airplanes.
Which flu was that?
Yeah, well, in fact, the plague took a long time, but this flu took 5 months to kill 22 million people.
Isn't it because they lived really close though?
Partly that, partly it was very it was destructive. It hit the guys in the trenches first,
Yeah.
so they're on close quarters. They get sick, they pass it to the nurses, they pass it to the doctors, they pass it to civilians, they pass it to just like
Yeah.
that. Yeah.
A lot of the big problem back then too is we couldn't do anything about the side effects or the symptoms of the germ.
Right.
And then people
There wasn't
died
anything to
of
do.
pneumonia, and now you just give them a nebulizer and send them on their way.
That's right. So one of the problems was lack of healthcare, lack of all that.
What animal did that one come from?
They don't know. They believe it was swine, possibly.
And what did you call it?
It's called the 1918 flu or the Spanish flu.
Okay.
Right. You name it after who you blame, right? The French called it actually the German flu. Which makes sense. So immune response. If you have a normal flu, what's your system going to do? Walk me through it. You're first going to do what?
Recognize it.
Recognize it, and then you're going to make your helper T cells,
Activate your
B's and T's, so a normal response. So 2 weeks later, you will have an army fighting off a flu. That 2 weeks has been the time you're lying there crying in bed watching reruns. Right? So you caught the flu, your immune system eventually catches up and fights off the flu. Now, the problem with the avian flu is actually question 3. It creates a cytokine storm or cascade. A cytokine storm is an excessive response. So instead of just turning on your B's and T cells, your immune system decides to turn on everything it's got. It goes nuclear. So what would be some symptoms if every immune cell in my body got active? What would I see?
Higher heart rate and
Higher heart rate.
Temperature.
My blood vessels would do what?
dilate.
Dilate and get leaky, right? Histamine. I'd have a really high fever.
Lymph nodes would get
Lymph
big.
nodes would get big. My bone marrow would hurt. All those things. So your body's trying to kill off the swine flu by just going nuts. And that's called a cytokine storm. It just excessively responds. Those are the symptoms you see, is that it's your body trying to kill the flu too well.
Does the kissing disease do the same thing like the flu?
No, mono tends to just make you tired. It can lead to fatigue, but mostly it's just a run-down feeling. This is actually this is mostly you're actually lying down dying kind of response. Yeah.
And that can kill you though too.
Yes, it can. Right. So, how is it possible to have multiple pandemics at the same time, same century? How could you end up with all these rounds of the same flu?
It changes.
It changes, and the people that survive die off. Now, no one has memory, right?
Survival of the fittest.
In some sickening way it is. Because chances are, no one you know had 1918's flu. Some of you may not even know there was a 1957.
It was.
And you probably, I was born a year after 68, so I was never exposed to that one. So in theory, I'm not immune to any of these. I've never seen them before.
Is there any reason why, like, pigs and birds pass things to us more than other, like a cow or whatever?
Just the way it is.
Is there something in them that,
Well,
that's
we've
crazy?
lived with pigs and birds for centuries.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, in theory, it's, why don't dogs do it, right? But no one knows. It just is, so hence.
Yeah, because
pigs
dogs
don't have a
and
pet
cats live
pig.
with us.
Right? So let's do that. Let's reassort. So a piggy and a chicken sneeze on each other.
Oh, God.
Which H's and N's will I have when I get done?
All of them.
H5N1 to H1N1 would make it what?
H1, 5, and 1, 1. I don't know.
That's right. You don't know because you don't know. That's the problem, is you'll never know what the combination will be. It could be any number between 5s and 1s. You don't know.
Can they test it? And
Yes, you can. So you can test your pigs, you can test your chickens, and try to find which one they have. But you have to wait for them to hybridize and infect a person to see what the next one is. So you got to wait for sick people to know what the human one will be.
well, like chickens and whatever in that region though,
Yes.
because they would have something different in another.
Right. The problem is you still can't predict what the outcome will be.
Yeah.
Right. So, read that little blurb. It's about receptors again.
The host cell.
So, humans have 2 6 receptors, birds have 2 3s, pigs have both. Why are Asian countries the hotbed for viruses?
Proximity.
Proximity to piggies. Pigs can get infected with any type of virus in the world. So if you live next to a pig, you can get it back from the pig that got it from some bird.
Got it.
Right. So Chinese restaurant menus are an illustration of what can happen in flu. Right? So pigs and chickens in the U.S. are actually watched by the USDA to watch that. Right? If you're a pig farmer, you will be inspected and asked a lot of times, are your pigs sick? For that reason. Make sense? This is about that memory cell. If you change the virus, you change the memory. And you start over. Make sense? Vaccines require the same thing again. Questions on HIV or flu-y things?
Do we need to know in the order of HIV the steps? Do we
Yeah.
know that particularly?
You'll tell me a few of them.
Oh, okay.
So
Right.
if you had an excessive release of histamine, would that make your leaky blood vessels?
Right, and that's what kills you normally in 1918, was your blood pressure drops so fast. You leaked out all your fluid,
Okay.
that basically you died of blood flow. You just became zero. Yeah. You can't keep the pressure up either. Yeah.
When I have allergies in the spring, my nose always has blood in it.
That's not good.
I know.
Never mind. Is that why?
Hey, let me until you got your final exam, so you can study for that or get ready for your lab test.
I've got the disease now.
I know.
Are you ready? Your final. Your final exam. You want to know what's on it?
Yeah.
You already gave us that sheet.
More details?
Here it is. I haven't studied yet.
Look at me, Mister.
Hang on, let me see.
Oh, look at it, it's written down.
Okay, let's go through the questions.
Word for word.
Word for word. Going in methodically. Alright, so question on first page is all on brain damage questions. So I've given you some where you have a symptom, and you have to tell me which part of the brain is damaged. Side, lobe, place. And then the second part is the reverse of that. I've given you a part. You tell me what the symptom would be. You know, Jonathan destroys his Wernicke area. Blah, 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 blah.
Exactly.
Exactly. Right? All right. There is some specific questions on the limbic system. You know, what is that for? Jonathan ripped out his limbic system. What would you see? Ah! Okay. No one caught that joke. Okay. There's an RAS question in terms of the reticular, the different RAS than the one last week, the reticular operating system. What's that for? What happens to you if that were
The reticular operating?
activating?
Okay.
Activating?
Yeah.
Yeah, that changes it. All right. There is a question on the cranial nerves, actually several questions on the cranial nerves, because you love those so. Name, number, where it goes, and what type it is. Think of dirty rhymes and write them down. All right, then there's a whole series of questions on the sympathetic and parasympathetic innervations. So the anatomy, the length of the stuff, the neurotransmitters. If I turn this one on, what symptoms would I have? I turn that one off, what would I do? So be able to block or do either one. Okay. I have a question on the retina, how you see. So rods versus cones, which ones see what? That kind of stuff. I have a question on the pathway to hearing. So what are the steps to making my voice end up in your head? Assuming it is. Huh? What? Are you saying something? All right, then there's about 10 questions on the endocrine chart from health. Name, source, target, action, type. So just be able to vomit that back on a piece of paper.
Will you give us an extra blank sheet of paper?
No.
Could we use one?
You can use one.
Oh, okay. Okay.
I love this class. All right, what am I doing? Who are you people? All right, again, where was that?
Endocrine chart.
All right, endocrine chart from health. Thank you. I think I turned one page too far. All right, so I've also given you a handful of hypo endocrine stuff. So if this hormone were too high, what symptom would you see? If I have this symptom, is that too much or too little of that? So be able to relate the symptoms of these hormones. And then the regulation thereof. Is that tropic releasing stuff? So if this one's high, what's this one going to do? If this one's low, what should that one do? Hint, hint, there might even be a graph. Yeah. Tropic releasing. There's an EPO question. Less oxygen makes more EPO, which makes more RBCs. Tattoo it on your arm. All right, thank you. There is a bile bilirubin question. So where do blood cells go to die, and give you the steps to make them go away. There's a blood transfusion question. If you're a this, I can give you a that. I give you this other one, you've died.
Oh, like blood type?
Blood type.
Bilirubin meaning the how it's made.
How you recycle the iron, keep the rest. Then there's a theories about 10 questions on the heart, the plumbing of the heart. You are a drop of blood, yet again. You know, give me the pathway. What doors are closing when this sound is there? What chamber's doing what when? Like that last page on your last test. You know, what's happening when and when. All right, there's a cardiac output question. What would make it go up or down? And there is a blood pressure regulation question. That's that renin-angiotensin aldosterone kind of stuff. If my dad's blood pressure is way too high, what can you do to lower it? Besides killing him.
That would decrease your.
That does decrease blood pressure. Yes, shooting yourself in the head will decrease blood pressure. All right, then we have the new stuff, basically, that we learned, you know.
I have a
So,
question about
yes.
that. So if we say RAS,
Yes.
you will accept that?
Yep,
Okay.
I know exactly what you mean. Yep, that's what you mean. So we have, where am I? Right here. Yes, right there. Okay, we have a question on the barriers of the body. So, what things keep stuff out of you? Can you give me a handful of them? Then if that fails, what's the next thing? That'd be inflammation. There's an inflammation question. And then there's a couple lymph questions. What is lymph? What does that have to do with anything? Then I have a question on, a big question on the B cell and T cell pathways. So people walk me through from when I inject you with something or you get exposed to something. Can you walk me through how the B's and T's get turned on and what they do? So Jonathan spits in your eye. You know, not that I would. I'm a nice guy. You know, how do you make antibodies? How long will that take? What cells would you need? So walk me through the B and T cell cascades. Along with that is how does a vaccine work? So you'll tell me how a vaccine relates to your immune system. Okay. There's a question on the difference between autoimmunity and allergies. How did those affect the immune system, or what does that mean? There's a question specifically on the classes of antibodies. Thou shalt know IgA, IgD, blah, 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 blah. What are they found? What do they do? If I told you an IG class, could you tell me what it's for? Then I have one question on the HIV biology. So, why is AIDS a bad idea?
Wait, what was that? What did you say?
HIV biology. So how does AIDS affect you? Why? Stuff. And that's what I have written so far. I don't have a specific EKG interpretation, although it's in the cardiac cycle. So you know, during P wave, this chamber is doing what?
So how
But
much
not an
more-
actual EKG.
how much more you have to write?
I think I have to tweak the. There's one question I'm not particularly fond of, so I may just. You'll know by Monday.
You didn't mention autorhythmic and contractile cells.
I don't currently have a question for that. Nor I think I have one of them.
There's not a blood clot either.
After what? Hold on. Did I mention, not mention blood clot?
Nope.
Nope.
Oh, coagulation. Is that part of the?
That would be
Well, no, I mean,
nice.
I wanted one on here. I gotta figure out.
No, we can still add stuff.
Of course I can.
Shut up.
It was a recent thing.
You're welcome.
Everyone not see it.
Isn't it kind of with the antigens, with the blood typing and stuff too? We can do that.
Sounds like we're doing some negotiating.
can negotiate this?
This is not a democracy, this is a dictatorship.
That's right. I'm the only one that matters. I know I put one on here. I know I did. Where did I put it? I'm going to slide.
What was your stress?
Ah, yes.
Found it.
Sorry. Yeah, there was a one blood clotting with one number. So don't. It's not a long one. So it's buried underneath that. We're in the heart stuff.
Okay, what's the question we're gonna be asking?
Okay.
How it
Right
clots.
out Monday.
Okay.
Did you say you're not?
Chances are, if I gave you a number, could you tell me which pathway would be it? If I were to block a number, which pathway?
Oh,
Oh,
like
this question.
5 and 10.
There's your time, it's yours to ask me questions. Lab exam will start at 7:30. You know the drill by now. Good.